Welcome to Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. And here's your host, Conrad Cushman.
Folks, we're live. Welcome to Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. I am your host, Conrad Cushman, and with me today, I have one of the most favorite episode guests of all time, much requested, always wanted, our favorite video game developer, Bryan Williams. Bryan, what is going on, brother?
Conrad, what is up, man? How you doing, brother?
We're hanging in there, man. Just doing our thing. How are you hanging in there with all of this fiasco going on around the world, the U.S.?
Man, I can't even front, man. Like, this shit is crazy, dog. I mean, you know, I live in L.A. I mean, you're in Buffalo, another big city, but it's just eerie, you know. Like, I'm on lockdown. You know, I can walk to the grocery store and all that, but it's just crazy to step outside. And we've been having some really nice days too, and it's just like hardly anybody around, you know. It's nuts, man. It's nuts. That's all I can say. I just hope we all can get through this soon and safe. When everybody, yourself included, everybody watching this, to just be, you know, wash those hands and don't touch that face, and let's just get through this.
EPW, always have the hand sanitizer on deck. Look, you just squirt a little, rub them hands together. Always be safe. Always be clean. But, Bryan, I appreciate you saying that, and I think that was the first time anyone ever compared Buffalo to L.A. or out where you are in Cali, because Buffalo is the biggest, smallest city in the world, I always tell people. What's up, Rob? I see the chat. We got Prince Rockstar. I see Doug. Rob just put hashtag quarantine and chill. What is good, Rob? Man, good to have you guys in here. But today, we are here with Bryan. We're going to be talking basically his past working with WWE video games. We are going to go through the start of his career all the way to the end. This is probably going to have to be a series we were just talking about, because I'm sure Bryan's got so many stories, so many things to say. He'll probably forget half the stuff because of how much stuff he has seen and what has happened and his experiences and everything else.
Yeah, probably. That's why I'm glad I got you, because you probably remember a lot of this stuff. It might, trigger some memories in my head just speaking with you about it.
Yeah, and Doug, I don't ever want to read that you like being dirty again. Keep that to yourself in the live chat. But yeah, we're going to talk about the WWE Games, Bryan. I don't see why we waste any more time, man. Let's get right into this. That's what people want to hear about. Your start on the video game series, I believe you came in during Here Comes the Pain, right?
No, so what was the chronology? So Here Comes the Pain. I was still in QA when Here Comes the Pain was in test. And I remember, because I just finished up doing QA on SpongeBob SquarePants, the
nice.
battle for Bikini Bottom. And once that wrapped up, like, you know, people were getting moved to different teams and everything. And I remember going up to Monica, who was the head of QA at the time. I just saw her in the hallway. Because they would just take people off of projects. Like, you never really had a say as far as what game you wanted to go on. But a lot of my friends from SpongeBob had been moved on to Here Comes the Pain. And I saw Monica, and I'm like, Monica, please, you know, I would love to be a part of that test team. And, you know, she said she'd take it into consideration, but it did happen. So I didn't have anything to do with that game. Ended up testing the following game, which was the first SmackDown versus Raw, right?
Yeah, SmackDown versus Raw was next, with Vince on the cover with the red and blue eyes.
Right. So I did get a chance to test that, and it was testing that video game that allowed me to meet Corey and Devin, another designer at the time, because I was sent to various trade shows to demo the game, and they were there, so that was my first time meeting them. And they were the ones that recruited me after those couple of trips. So I got hired onto the team during production of SmackDown vs. Raw 2006.
I honestly feel, Bryan, too. And I've always said this about you, so this isn't me like pandering. I don't feel to you or anything. You could probably check some of the old ass message boards and find my thoughts on this. I always felt that you were the best one for speaking to the public, as far as like how you presented yourself. I can smell someone who isn't a real fan right away in these like wrestling video game interviews. I'm sorry to tell you that. Like I can tell instantly. I'm like, oh, this dude's an old fan, or oh, this dude he doesn't watch wrestling today. He's just doing it because that's his job. Like you could just tell that those things and the fakeness. But with you, Corey, even Aubrey, like I smelled like, okay, this dude's really a wrestling fan. Like he knows this stuff.
Oh yeah,
he's willing to talk about like if you bring up a name from like Japan, he knows it. Aubrey would talk about Bruiser Brody, and I'm like, see, that's my guy right there. I like that. Honesty is what sells the consumer on it, and I think that's a big part hurting the games today is the fact that I just don't feel that connection with the people who are making the game. I mean, Lionel Jinx, he seems like a cool dude. He probably really is, but he's the only one I feel that connection, and he doesn't speak enough to the community.
Yeah. You know, yeah, Lionel, he's an amazing dude, man. You know, I my time at 2K wasn't the best, but not because of him. Like, if anything, as far as the 2K original staff that I met over there, he was the best person that I got a chance to work with. He's a really, really, really dope cat. I thank you for those kind words. I appreciate it. And it's funny that you say that about me, you know, speaking and all that, because when I was at THQ, like I always kind of not dreaded. Well, at first I did, but like having to speak in public about the game, like, because like a lot of people, like public speaking was always, you know, something that I was scared to do, but they kind of just shoved me out there and I had to do it. But it's like you said, I mean, I'm a fan, and, you know, it's easy for me to speak on, you know, this game that I was a part of for so long in wrestling just because I love it. And that's why I stayed as long as I did. And you can always tell, like you said, the people who just, they're not fans. I work with a lot of them. And all respect to them, they were all, you know, well, not all, but mostly cool people. But they didn't last long, you know. They were there for one game, and then they dip out, you know, just because, you know. And I get it. It's like it's hard to develop a wrestling game if you don't have that strong passion for it. It really is.
Yeah, that's why I appreciate you being out on the forefront for those games. Let's talk SmackDown versus Raw 2006, though.
Okay.
The back of this game box, like we're kind of going to go through all the features and everything else that you remember. I remember this being like a really good game still. Like everything was hunky-dory. I was feeling it. You guys had the momentum and strategy kind of added into there. This was the game where you guys kind of went away from the single bar to fill up for people when they're in the wrestling matches. You kind of had the no mercy bar where you couldn't do the same moves over and over and over again to get the advantage. So tell me about this game. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when we say SmackDown versus Raw 06?
GM mode and the PSP version of this game.
Yes.
So like I said, when I joined the design team when 2006, they were already in development. So I really didn't have too much input into, you know, the game itself outside of I remember Devin, you know, like I said, I mentioned him earlier. He was one of the designers next to Corey. Like he was in charge of GM mode for that year, and one of the first things that he gave me to do was he gave me, you know, the design that Yuke's put together, wanted me to go through it, kind of provide feedback on, you know, things that were cool or could be improved upon, and that was like my first big task, and it was a big ass design too, man. That was like a 30-page design, but again, I'm a fan, and I'm like, this is so awesome. Like I just love that shit, and so I gave some feedback. I mean, really, it was didn't have to give too much. I mean, it had kind of been vetted enough already. But I guess my biggest contribution, do you remember the PSP version of this game?
I saw it. I remember looking at people playing it in reviews. See, I'm more of a big console gamer kind of person. I don't buy like Game Boy or what was it? the Game Gear for like Sega and stuff. I was never that kind of person. I'm like, dude, if I'm getting a game, it's gonna be on the big TV. It's got to go down like that. Like even behind me right now, I got the big TV, the PS4. That's it. That's what it's gonna be. That's how I'm gaming.
Same, but we developed 2006 for the PSP, and on that console we had to differentiate or add special features to the PSP version, exclusive features that weren't in the console. And so I remember Corey kind of put me in charge of those exclusive features for the PSP SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, and they were silly as hell, man. There was one where you had Eugene, and you had to navigate him like I think it was like down the ramp or something using the tilt controls or something like that, some nonsense.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of other like mini games that were on the PSP that I guess that was my first kind of design thing that I did for the game, and was not a big fan of how it turned out.
You know what though? You may not be a fan, but I was going back and in preparation for this, you got to watch like a bunch of reviews, and I didn't want to watch just 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I went through a bunch of them, and a lot of people liked the PSP version. They appreciated the effort that was put into it to make it different, but it still had everything that it needed to. I'm not going to talk about some of these other catastrophes that we've had to deal with recently on portovers to like Nintendo Switches and stuff. But dude, this was gold to them. A lot of people on the PSP liked it.
Yeah, and I think there might have also been like a tournament mode in that game too. I think I forget. It's been a long time. But if it was, I think I added that. Oh, excuse me. I put that together for that year's game for the PSP as well. But outside of the PSP, like I love SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. I mean, just playing it, like I said, as a fan, and this game had a lot of cool shit in it that that got removed in the following year's iteration, like the standing 10 count. You remember that?
The double knockdown.
The double knockdown.
Now I'm gonna tell you the truth on this. This was the one that had all those little mini games, right, to stop it and everything else.
Yeah.
I struggled with some of those, man. So 06, this is probably like this had to be like me leaving like my senior year of high school going into college. I remember playing this game with my brother Cam, and hopefully he listens to this eventually. He's probably going to kill me when I say this, but he used to have a stable called the Sea Dogs, and I always remember, and it was him and like dudes all in like white tees with the big baggy shorts. And I used to try to run the gauntlet against him. He'd be like, you can't beat these 3 dudes on the hardest level with Batista. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got this, bro. You know, you're working part-time hours. I'm going to college goofing off. I didn't care about nothing at the time. And we used to just have so much fun playing this. But those mini games always got me. And that's how I lost every time. I'm like, oh, come on, get up, get up, get up. And then I would just lose or something crazy would happen from them. Even in the Buried Alive matches, dude. I love playing those in the game. Just fun.
Yeah, that's right. This had the Buried Alive match.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah, that was actually a pretty fun match, the Buried Alive. The only thing was that, like, if you're playing, like you said, you're playing with your brother and all that, but if you're playing against the AI, I just remember that being such a chore to try to get that. You're constantly just Irish whipping the dude up the ramp, and it like that. We could have done something better with that. Because that kind of it just kind of prolonged the match, in my opinion. It was fun once you got up there to the stage and you're forcing the guy into the coffin. But I remember playing against the AI. Sometimes that could be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, but this game had so much more too than just the mini games. Like when I look at the match types in here, I feel like that's a lot of what's missing today too. It's just not as fun. I don't know. There's something about this that's fun. I mean, maybe it's that it's quicker paced, but I also I'm more of a sim guy myself. Like I would rather play a match that feels real. You can kind of replicate it, but at the same time, it's really fun. Like I said, No Mercy is the creme de la creme to me. Like nothing's beating it. I don't care about that Here Comes the Pain noise people talk. Sometimes I'm like, that's number 2. No Mercy.
I'm a Here Comes the Pain guy before No Mercy guy. I'm with them, and it's not just because I work for Use now. I'm looking at I got No Mercy plugged into my 64 right now. I love that game is cool, but I'm a Here Comes the Pain over No Mercy guy, but that's just me.
I mean, no, and there's nothing wrong with that, dude. Listen, I've had so much fun playing like the hardcore like time limit matches and all that. Me and my boys can tell crazy stories from like playing those and riding around on the bike. Those days were just fun, and I feel like during this time period we were still into that. I don't want to call it arcadey, but it was more like an arcade sim style kind of game. Like I felt like we were getting away from the fighting game aspects of it a little bit.
Yeah. So I agree with that. I think what Here Comes the Pain, and then that first SmackDown versus Raw, then SmackDown versus Raw 2006, it hit a really nice sweet spot of I would probably say it was like 60-40, 60 arcade, 40% sim. It wasn't too out there, but at the same time it wasn't too restrictive either. So I think that attributed to like what you said, how fun it was, and it really was. It was a faster paced game. Definitely in comparison to the pacing of how the game is paced now, for sure. So yeah, it was just fun. I mean, I played with my roommate at the time, just all the time, and whooped his ass thoroughly. So I got good memories of SmackDown versus Raw 2006.
I'm gonna share some comments real quick from the chat here. Rob said, "Battle for Bikini Bottom is an absolute underrated classic."
It is. It's a damn good game, man.
My man Pawn from XGW, that's a story we'll save for when we get into the later years of these games, so I can explain how I got into that mess. What's going on, Pawn? Good to have you in here.
What up?
People were talking about epic wrestling game covers in the chat. Some people said they loved the Game Boy and PSP. Rob said, I only had the 50 Cent game and Soul Calibur for the PSP and barely played those. Biggest waste of money at the time. I remember that 50 Cent game. That was like they wanted to be Grand Theft Auto with 50 Cent and it just wasn't working. It wasn't.
If it's the same game, it's got to be. Wasn't that the one? For me, it looked like they were trying to rip off Gears of War.
They were trying a bunch of like different elements. It wasn't working for me. They tried. I mean, once you beat it, it was like, okay, cool, man. Like my friends had it. And that was back when you could like borrow the games, the physical discs, and then give it back. I was like, yeah, I'm done with this, homie. Thanks. Bring me something more challenging. Bring me that Metal Gear. Let me see that. Let's see here. Rob has a question for you, so I guess we'll ask this one now. He said, did you have anything to do with the marketing for that game, the voiceover versus online commercials?
For SmackDown for 2006?
Mm-hmm.
No, I did not. I hadn't even met the marketing people at that point, so no.
And so what was your main job during that time? I mean, were you just working on the designs for, you said GM mode in the PSP?
Yeah, but I reviewed the design. Really my time on 2006, because it was like a bridge, right? Like I got hired, the game was in QA already, it was pretty much done. I kind of just helped, push the thing out the door, and then the game came out. I believe it was like October. I mean, the game always came out at the same time. So once the game was done, that's when we all started getting on board with the next one, 2007. And 2007 is when I, really got my hands involved in everything. That's kind of where it started for real. I kind of look at 2006, at least in my career, as like the what is it? Not the epilogue, the prologue, right? The prologue goes to the epilogue. Yeah, the prologue of my career. And then with 2007, that was like, okay, here I am. Now I'm actually designing these new features from the ground up. And that was really fun. And then mocap, I got involved with mocap 2007. Like that's when everything started. Like being out there talking to the press, getting sent to Europe and the other countries, being out there, promoting the game. It all started with 2007.
Now, let me ask you this. At your time with the company and during like creating SVR2006, did you feel like you were playing the role of, I got to make a name for myself, or were you kind of like quiet, head down, keep it moving, hopefully no one notices me, and they're like, hey, you, get over here?
Definitely not trying to make a name for myself. I was just thankful to be in the position that I was. I mean, you have to imagine, going from, QA, testing these games to then being, recruited to join the design team. Like I was in heaven, dog. I never saw that happening for myself. When I got hired at THQ as a tester, I did it just as like it's something to do in the interim while I figure out what my career was going to be. So no, I definitely like when I got on that team, it was, let me, mouth closed, ears open. I'm just sitting here trying to learn and absorb as much as I can to be, to contribute to the team and everything. I was very humbled and very, just like I said, just glad to be there. And it was great. And working with Corey, me and him are still friends to this day. Getting a chance to work with Devin. I mean, unfortunately, Devin, he left right after 2006 came out. He left THQ and then went to Rainbow. I think he might still be there. I'm not sure. But no, man, I was just trying to learn from these guys, and that's how it's been even to this day. I'm constantly learning,
That's a good attitude to have in any business that you're working in. I'm gonna read a few more comments here just because they got me smiling in the background. So if you guys ever hear me laugh randomly or smile, it's because of the live chat while we're doing this. Original Biggie said, again, you can have simulation elements and still have fun. I agree with that, Original Biggie, and I loved your videos on everything you do with the series. He always has videos coming out like 5 things how to make it better. They're kind of like quick videos, and I think he does a really good job with those.
I've seen some of those.
See, Obi-Wan, people are listening to you, dog. Keep those videos coming. Rob says, I'm pretty sure I'm in the minority here, but I'm going to say it. Shut your mouth over Here Comes the Pain. It's a toss-up between both of those for me, Rob. It's not that it's bad. I think Here Comes the Pain's roster puts that cherry on top that just gives it the edge where I'm like, bro, they got everybody. I don't know.
I think I'm with you. I mean, Shut Your Mouth was great, too. But I think it's the roster in addition to the gameplay, Here Comes the Pain, that I think, like you said, it's just that, the cherry on top and the sprinkles and the whipped cream, all that.
I love the way that you guys like transition from. So I liked 1, and then 2, you guys added some elements. I was like, okay, bigger roster, dope. And then when it got into Just Bring It, I thought that was the greatest thing ever since Sliced Bread. When I first played, I'm like, yo, look at this. This looks so cool. And now I look back at it, I'm like, oh, that was trash. Cringe.
Yeah. A lot of those early games didn't age so well.
But you know what, though? I think it aged over time well. I don't know if that's the best way to put it. It's kind of like planting a tree a little bit. Like, that was watering it, and then all of a sudden, once I got into the Shut Your Mouth, Here Comes the Pain, I was like, oh, this is something beautiful. This could be a money maker. And it was. And a lot of people, someone just said Shut Your Mouth was underrated. Here Comes the Pain is the best wrestling game of all time. That must have been when I was talking my trash. Pawn said, hell yeah, about XGW. Pawn, don't worry, I'll be telling those tearful stories, I promise. Someone
I can't
corrected
wait
me.
to hear about this XGW, man. You got me excited to hear about this stuff.
Oh yeah, dude, listen, I used to write you guys to tell you that I will give you all of my data and everything for it, and I had ideas for how to implement it into the game. And I said I will not charge you. This will just make the game 10 times better. Well, like I said, I'll get into it with you when it's the time period for it. But this, I'm still dumb and in college and being stupid.
Man, you cared. You cared. That's all. That's good.
You got to have fans like that. We were the gaming ring people, though, who cared too much. Let's see here. Rob said you're thinking of Blood on the Sand. Oh, I forgot. 50 probably did have multiple video games back then.
Blood on the Sand. That's when
Mm-hmm. It still wasn't. It's 50, man. I get it. He made money off of it. He don't care.
Hey, for a video game based off of 50 fucking cent, I actually thought they overachieved with the Blood on the Sand. that game was so ridiculous, a story. But the gunplay and the game, the gameplay was pretty fun, like I said.
Look, and I'm going to veer off into some real hip-hop stuff for a second. 50 Cent's the greatest seller of all time, man. Like, when I hear his first album, in all honesty, his second album after that, I can't even think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's the exact same thing as Get Rich or Die Trying, with just different song titles for some of the songs. Like, honestly, like, I heard a song and I was like, yo, this is just Many Men all over again, dude. Like, this is the exact same song. And I mean, I still listened to it and it was fun, but just... The dude's a great marketing genius for himself. He can put stuff out on IG and he's making bread. PR Nightmare, what's good, brother? I see that you joined us as well. Rob, I think you made him feel bad, Brian. He said, is that an IWGP IC title just chilling back there? I got to step my belt game up.
Actually, it is the IWGP championship, but it's a pillow.
Brian, you shouldn't have did that. You had the front right there. That was your chance until someone would have peeped it out. Like, what's good with that?
No, my coworker Kuge-san in Japan, he got that for me the last time I was in Japan. We went at one of the New Japan shows. But yeah, it's a comfortable pillow. Like when I fly and everything, I use it, put it around my neck.
Ooh, let's see here. Somebody said that they had to agree with Prince Rockstar. He said, I agree. '06 was the standard in creating a sim video game. What do you think of that, Brian?
I agree. I think he's right on the money. I really do. Like I said, there's just a lot of cool things and elements in that game that I wish would have been, carried over. And that's one of the things, looking back, it's like, because you were asking, before, like, what was my attitude? Like, was I trying to make a name for myself or like just kind of hunker down? Like, this is a moment where I wish I would have been a little more, not forceful, but spoken up a little bit more as when we transitioned from '06 to '07, when it came to, which features were going to be ported and which ones were going to be axed, because there were a couple of things in 2006, more than a couple actually, that I wish would have been carried over, but.
Yeah, that's another weird thing with it too, though. But you got to remember, when you're on your first year, you're on probation. Like, I just got off probation at work. I was quiet for a little bit. Like, there's times where you're like, you know what? You wouldn't say that to me in a year from now, so you better watch what you're talking about, dog. But you can't be like that. And hopefully no one from work's listening. And if you are, I don't care. So it's what it is, man. You played your role, though, and you played a big part in this series. And like I said, this is going to be a series. We're going to continue talking about it for those who are joining in late. Foul Original is in here. Foul, what's going on? Foul's been playing some of the old wrestling games, if you guys don't know. So I'm going to give him a little plug right here. I saw him play. Dude, he was playing the old wrestling games that were like, yo, dog, I can't touch this. Like, where the rings are barely in there. The old WrestleMania game. Dude, it said it was the $1 Million Man. I don't know who that was. That was running around the ring. But you got to always go back to the classics, though. I always do believe you have to pay your respects, pay your dues, go back and play the old ones, see where we've come from. He even played the one where you had to, I don't know if it was on Nintendo or the Atari, where you had to put you picked what you were going to do, and then they would show the video of you, like, trying to put it in the headlock, and then you may get reversed into, like, a back suplex or something.
Oh, damn. I don't even know that one.
Brian, that's probably before you were born, dog. Like, that's way back.
I don't know about that. I'm pretty old. But it is true. It's always fun to go back and revisit all those, just old games, period, but especially old wrestling games to kind of see where they started and where they are now. Maybe not now, but.
Let me see here. He said it was Micro League Wrestling, Foul. Thank you, Foul, for that update. Donnie, what's going on? I see you in the chat putting the fire in there. AR has a question for you, Brian. He said, Do you think wrestling games should have simulation and arcade mode in one game?
Should. I guess if I had my preference, it would have both, because that's just kind of what I prefer personally. Like, I like a game, for me, like, gameplay and fun has to come first. It has to. That can't be sacrificed in order to try to make something more real. And especially when we're talking about, wrestling, itself, which is it's scripted combat, So it's one of those things where it's like, you can't take it too seriously, because this isn't an actual sport. It's presented as, it's a show. So for me, I think, trying to go too hard in the sim aspect for a wrestling title kind of just takes all the fun out of it. Which is, I've had many discussions with old coworkers about that. But that's just my take and my stance. And I think, games like 2000, SmackDown versus Raw 6, Here Comes the Pain, what's another one? Even like a No Mercy, I think they all strike a really good balance about being real enough for a form of entertainment that in and of itself is scripted, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You know what you want when it comes to this, but let's hop back in on this 06 stuff real quick, because there are a few other things that I kind of want to touch upon real quick. The season mode. I gotta know, how were these things being written back then? I believe this was the year with Teddy Long. And hey, Tori, baby girl, how you doing? And then Tori gives him the kiss. And I went back and watched the review of this, and Teddy Long doing the strut, walking away like he always does. And then the car starts up and it hits him. That was the year of like, who done it? Who hit Teddy Long with the car? Dude, I was just dying laughing at some of this stuff. I'm like, dude, these animations were so much better when they were like that. Like, I was just laughing.
Yeah.
Thanks, baby girl. Holla, holla, holla.
Yeah, this season mode in this game was pretty fun. Yeah, the guy who designed this, Andy, he was the one who also designed the season mode for Here Comes the Pain, and he was really good. Like the guy, he got it. I think this might have been his last game with us. In fact, because he wasn't there in 2007 for that game. But yeah, he was the one that I think wrote it and kind of came up with the scenarios and all that kind of stuff. And then Yuke, they add in their feedback and their designs and their 2 cents. And again, like you said earlier, it's like you could tell that it was designed and written by someone who got the license. You know what I mean? Who was a fan. Like I think that really came through when playing it.
So I have a question for you then.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is going to pertain because this is going to come up again later. The rumor that always comes up is WWE has a stranglehold over like what you guys can do. They must approve everything. It's kind of a strenuous process. For people who don't know out there, how bad does it get? Like especially during these years in 2006, was it something that you felt like it was better during this time period? Was it always status quo? Like we have to do this way. This is how it's going to be from now until current day. I mean, what were your thoughts on WWE and how they had to approve everything back then?
Honestly, I don't know where that came from, them being so, stringent, they being the WWE when it comes to approvals. I think they were involved enough, but they largely left us alone. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to, when you have scripts, they get reviewed by, WWE personnel on their side, but they never got involved with us when it came to gameplay. Their biggest thing with approval process was just how the wrestlers looked in the game, the wrestlers, the arenas. That was their big thing, and even the arenas really not so much. It was just how the superstars themselves appeared, and if anything, the biggest arguments that we had on the dev side of things with the WWE when it came to approvals usually always revolved around the aesthetics of the character models, because for several years, like especially like when I got on, like you see these guys and they were so overly muscled and ripped up, like even much more so than they are in actual life. And that was an edict that WWE, they wanted their guys, their men and their women, to look like these like statuesque Greek gods. And it was always a hurdle when you had a character like I remember there was one Trevor Murdoch. We had him in the game. Maybe he was in a couple of games, but you know Trevor Murdoch, like he always had that. I mean, he looked like a barrel. You know what I mean? Right. And I say that the best way possible. But he did not have abdominals, abs that you can see. He wasn't shredded. He wasn't well defined muscularly. But if you looked at his model in the game, you'd be like, who the hell is this? This isn't the same dude that I'm watching on Raw. Like, where's his belly? It's like we had to always, sculpt these guys down. And it actually got in the way of making the models look good in a lot of cases. But that was the biggest thing. But then over the years, they finally started to soften about that. Like once we got into the next generation of consoles with, 360, PS3 and all that. And even then it took time. I want to say it wasn't until probably SmackDown versus Raw 11 or 12 that they kind of loosened the restrictions to kind of make the guys look a little bit more like themselves. Like if a guy isn't overly muscled, they kind of like, okay, fine. You can kind of have them look realistic to how they do on television. But that was usually the biggest thing. But yeah, I mean, because they're doing their own thing. It's like they hired THQ, they hired, and then they in turn hired Yuke to make a game, basically so that they didn't have to be there holding, anybody's hand. It's like, you've got our license, treat it with respect, take care of it, we trust you. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, you can go listen to Justin Leeper on the whole process for that. Shout out to Justin. He recently subscribed to me on Twitter, so give him a little cheap plug here.
Justin is my boy. I love him to death, and he had a lot. He probably had more involvement with the WWE than I did, just because he was in charge of the story mode. You know what I mean? Like, so he had a lot of back and forth with them with the scripts. Man, I miss Justin.
He shares a great Lagana story.
Yeah. It was definitely, it made everybody's life easier once he was no longer really involved. Because there's a lot. This could be a bottleneck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, two creative people sometimes working on a project can not always mesh well together. It'd be like someone coming in trying to tell me how to run my podcast a little bit. Like, no, you can't have that person as a guest. I want you to do this instead. And it's like, bro, really? Like, I got this. I know what I want to do. So I completely understand that. Now, before and a lot of
time, but I just want to say also, a lot of times also, it's a lot of the feedback that he would give. It was almost like a situation where he was just trying to justify his involvement, by just kind of adding feedback when it just wasn't necessary. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And well, it's like for us,
you know what that is, though, right? Oh, I can't. I'm gonna say it on there. I don't care. That's the making yourself seem more important than you are to get to advance your career. Everybody knows that person in the office where you're like, bro, did you really just do that? Wait till we get out of here and I get you and pull you to the side to talk with you about this. Like, I'm gonna let you know about yourself. But I get it too. He's trying to make his career happen somewhere else, and sometimes, hey, I don't have to deal with these people all the time, so I can say something here and make it happen, make myself look good.
Exactly.
But let me say this. I do love Trevor Murdoch, Lagana, the NWA product, showing them some love right now. I know wrestling's in a hard place right now, so make sure you guys show them love. I love that product that they're producing right now. So props to them. Bryan, I got to ask you about online. I'm a big online guy. And I know...
I am not.
Let me say this. I was a big online guy. During these time periods, I was trying to understand why it wasn't as cared for as much. But I do remember the hardships of hanging out at one of my buddies' house, and we would have the cords hooked up. It looked like Spider-Man was up in that room, like, kill. All right, we're plugged into the actual modem. Let's see how bad it is. And then, it'd be choppy. If you guys could see me on the screen, doing the slowest grab ever. You would get the choppy gameplay and everything else. What was online mode like in 06? I mean, was it very important to you guys? Was it let's just get this in there just so that we're on pace with everybody else?
Well, yeah. I mean, at that point, it's online game, online, mode and functionality was just becoming the standard for these type of games. And we definitely struggled. with online. This was the second year we had online. I think we had online. It was first introduced in the first SmackDown versus Raw.
Oh yeah, which I was undefeated online.
Yeah. So that was the first. Yuke, dipped their toe in the water on that one, and then with 2006, we tried to come back, with a more robust online presence. But yeah, I mean, I didn't work on online. I mean, that was definitely I just know that the engineers at Yuke's and everybody just had a hell of a time trying to get that stuff working. And like I said, it was always difficult working with online. That's why I stayed clear the fuck away from it. I was like, I want no parts of it. I'm gameplay. Create modes. Mocap. All that. That's what I do.
Right. No, that totally makes sense about it too. So let me ask you this: what don't you like about online as a gamer yourself? I mean, what about it is no, not for me? I mean, do you feel like it missed you as far as you being a video game player?
No, people are assholes. That's
Got it. So
people are assholes. I mean, it's not like I've never played. I used to play online games, but it just got to a point where I don't know, people are just dicks online, man. I mean, if I'm playing with you or friends, sure, but I'm not just playing some random cat online. I think the last time I did, somebody called me a nigger, and I was like, all right, nah, I'm done with this. Over fucking Gears of War, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, so, that is the absolute worst to be on there and play a game and then someone takes it to like the personal levels that they do, but they're usually kids. I don't know. Back in the day, I used to yell at them and say like, you're going to summer school and stuff, and they would get mad. So I don't know. You would just get wild for it. I don't know what I wanted from this. Maybe it was like competition. I think that was during the time period where I wanted to see like shout out to Kevin. I always give him his props. My buddy from the 2K League. I see him getting like the free controllers and stuff. I saw where the video game industry was kind of heading at the time. And I really think that, how do I want to put this? I really think that we could have been there earlier, especially for wrestling games. I know a lot of wrestling fans are kind of hurt by that. Sick's not in the chat, but Sick and me, like, we go back and forth to talk about this sometimes. We're like, dude, think of all the years we spent on this game, bro. He's like, we could have been pros, like, playing this game, getting paid for it or something. He was like, why did this never happen? But I'm seeing it happen for all these other games. He's like, that could have been us. And I'm like, yeah. So I think that's the part with online that I'm like, yeah, that kind of hurts. But there's no fair way to, like, do this stuff either, you know?
Yeah, you're talking about esports.
Yeah.
You're talking about that, right? Yeah. I mean, I make no excuses about, the online in our game, especially, early on. I mean, it was poor. It was poor, but it was something that, everybody was, they were new to it. And honestly, within the development time that we had, again, this is a game that that's released every year, from, pre-production to actual development. I mean, we're looking at like 9 months to get this game done, and honestly, and I say this not as an excuse, but I was always just impressed that we were able to get, anything working in that small amount of time, because it really is. It's almost, that's impressive in its own right. The fact that online was even, working as well as it did in, 2006. So yeah, that
was pre-patch too, like pre-patch era.
Right, exactly. We had to get that thing in, through certification, with Sony. I mean, it was, man, I miss those days. Now, as everybody is aware, it's like you buy a game, like a lot of, and I get it. I mean, it's hard, like I said, it's hard, especially if you're dealing with an annual title, to get everything in there working. But online and patches have made it to where, it's happened, when I was at 2K and stuff, where it's like, when you're getting the game through the approval process with Microsoft and Sony, it's kind of built into it that it's like, okay, look, we'll approve this, but you got to have that day one patch. And sometimes development studios are like, okay, cool, no problem, we got this, boom. But then other times, you just see the game is just not ready for prime time. It needs more time in the oven, and they kind of just use patches as a way to just say, oh, that's okay, we'll patch it later. Just get that sucker out there. And I just think that's a shitty business practice, personally.
That's AKA this chicken tastes funny. Like, yeah. This ain't done yet.
Done yet.
Yeah, I hear you on this. I really want to transition into 07, so I'm going to use my transition question next off of this one. GMO, bro. Why so hard, bro? Why so? Did anybody actually beat GMO without cheating? I got to know.
How'd you cheat in GMO?
I don't know. I think you could do certain things to get the money up. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I remember there were certain things that you could do if you like got the Undertaker and all the top people, and you made sure that you paid them a certain amount and you did like a certain promo, that you could win it. But without cheating, like, this thing was the hardest thing to keep going. I'm not a cheating type of person for it, first and foremost.
Of course not.
But I don't know if I ever beat this mode without playing it. You could play it against someone, correct?
Yeah.
So I don't think I ever beat it without going against like my brother or another like physical person across from me. I don't think I ever beat it against the computer. So what was the deal with this, Brian? I mean, I love a challenge though. Like, dude, I'm a huge fan of the Metal Gear Solid series. It's all sitting right next to me here. Big fan of extremely hard games, because that's what I want. I want a challenge. I want something that's got me so angry that when I have free time, I put it in. I'm like, yo, I'm about to beat this thing today. It's going down, like, no matter what. Blisters on my fingers and all that. But SmackDown versus Raw, the GM modes, those were up there for like, yo, this is aggravating me. What am I doing wrong?
I never thought it was that hard myself. Man, maybe I mean, it's been a while since I played the GM mode. I mean, obviously, but I never Yeah. Huh. Now you got me curious because
Oh
the AI,
yeah.
we were always trying to make the AI better, because like I remember in the early versions of it, like in 2006, like the AI was all right, but it was kind of dumb. Like it wouldn't make the best decisions. And I know that moving forward, like when it came to updating GM mode, it was always about trying to make sure that AI was making was behaving and making decisions for its best interest. So maybe we just went a little too overboard with that.
Let me say this. I don't think the AI itself was too hard, because a question just popped up in there for you too. The AI itself wasn't the hard part. It was more so like, bro, I'm doing all these things, and they would be like, this match wasn't that great. And then you would go look at, I think I always picked to be SmackDown. And then the Raw side would come out and it was like, oh, Triple H and Muhammad Hassan and Daivari put on a great handicap match, 5 stars. I'm like, that's BS, dog. I had Undertaker versus Kurt Angle. Like, what do you mean? No way.
Oh, that definitely is.
Yeah, so it had weird logic behind it, though. So I never understood it. Let me see here. AR is back with another question. He said, was there ever talk on making the difficult in the games higher? And also, was there any talk of GM mode coming back? We may have to save that. But was there ever talk of GM mode coming back after it went away? I'll let you decide if you want to answer that one, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing with GM mode. Like, it got removed. What was it? It was after, I think SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 was the last year that we had GM mode.
Yep.
And I remember at that time that being a discussion, having discussions with Corey and, I think my coworker Dan at the time, trying to figure out, hey, do we keep this thing? Is it worth sticking around? What do we do? And at the time, I mean, I was in it because Corey wanted to get rid of it, and I was in agreement. I was like, yeah, we can focus, that time and everything on other parts of the game. So I am, partly responsible with this removal. But I will say that while I was at, THQ still, as the years went on, because one thing about me is that, I always kept my ear to the streets, as it were, when it comes to this game and this series. And I kept hearing the clamoring for people saying, oh, we missed GM mode. It'd be great if we could get that back. And so I started championing it, every year when we would start pre-production, like what new feature we're going to do. And this was probably around the time of, I think it was 13, WWE 13 is when I really started to push for GM mode again. And I was just always outvoted or just, it was like Corey just didn't see the value in it and just thought that work and that time and energy was just best spent elsewhere. And even when I went to 2K, I remember for 15, like I was pushing it then. When I was 16, I was pushing it then. So I've been pushing. And it's not even that I love the mode. I did it because I know that a large contingent of fans love the mode, and we don't make this game for ourselves. We make it for the consumer. So for me, it was just like an easy thing. It's like, well, people keep talking about this story designer, let's give it back. They want it, let's give it to them, and I don't know, especially not to bring that back to what they did with 2K20, but I look at that game and like I said, I had no involvement with that, me or, Yuke, obviously, but I look at that and I'm like, who asked for this stuff? I'm like, because wrestling fans are vocal, wrestling fans will tell you what they want and what they don't. And so when I saw what their feature said, I'm just like, I don't know who was clamoring for this content, So yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna call this out real quick. Then we'll get into 07, and then I think we'll probably end after 07, so no one's heart breaks for what happened to 08. We'll get into that the next time we do. So I'm gonna put a part 1 after this, and then me and Brian will just make a series out of this till we get through all the games. If he's cool with that, absolutely. I hope so.
I need something to do while I'm quarantined. Actually, I'm not quarantined. I'm just locked down.
Sorry, I just started thinking of the Usos as soon as you said that. The Uso Penitentiary. But I think people remember this stuff with rose-colored glasses too a little bit, because people were complaining that GMO could go away and put more effort into this, into that. I think people forget these things because
that is true.
I remember people saying like, we don't need GM mode at the time, and Corey probably saw that too and was like, yo, they don't want it right now. So there was a big divide on GM mode, who liked it and who didn't, and then all of a sudden, I think over the years, we saw so much garbage, and it kind of got overtaken with more people like, yo, we do need this back. This needs to happen. And 2K, I got to call you on your BS real quick. Whoever is the community manager there, I'm not trying to dog him. I'm not even going to say his name because I do know his name. BS on the fact that you told some of the other people that you did not know that we wanted GM mode. I want to see those surveys, and I want to see the forum posts, those old ass forum posts that you guys use for your feedback. You're full of it. You're full of it.
Who said that? Who said that?
The community manager told, Chris Denker and a lot of the guys who go there. I watch all the videos to see who's telling the truth. I try to put 2 and 2 together because I do podcasting and stuff, so I want to be informed. And those guys are actually the reason I didn't buy the game this year. Like, the first time ever I never bought a WWE video game, like, in a calendar year since I was like 10, maybe? I'm old as hell, too, by the way. So think about what you just did to somebody who's been buying your games for so long. I wasn't feeling it, and it was because of what those guys were saying about the game. And then when I heard the feedback process of some of the guys said, yeah, we didn't really get to play right away, and they weren't crapping on him for that, but they said while talking to him, they were like, where's GM mode, bro? You guys asked for all this feedback, where is it? Oh, we didn't even know that people wanted that in. And I was just like, yo,
oh wow,
get this guy out of here. There's no way you could say that with a straight face. I would have rather heard we didn't have enough time to devote to the resources that it needed for what we wanted to do. Dandy, don't tell me that you didn't know the people wanted it, though. That was what was told to, I believe it was Pulse who said it. It was Pulse or Tony Pizza Guy or one of those guys who mentioned that. And I was kind of hurt by that. But on the same token, too, I think they're going to place the blame on Tony Pizza Guy and Pulse, who said they love all of the like crazy stuff in the video games for why they put the stuff in 2K20 now that you had just brought up. The zombies and all that. Like, I love arcadey, but that was too far arcadey for me to the point where I'm like, I'm not buying that DLC, bro. That's not what I want for DLC.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want this to be like me having like a hit piece on 2K and 20. I mean, people, I know it's been said about that, but what was I going to say? Shit, I lost my train of thought. Oh, I just wanted to mention, going back to. This is something that I hear people talk about, like when we did remove GM mode, or even before we did. Like there was a lot of things. I think there was like a misconception of, if it was in one year's game, it should be easy just to bring it back. It should be easy just to bring it back. It's already in one. Easy to port over into the next one, and it wasn't. Porting GM mode into each subsequent game was It was a process, and it took a lot of time to do. Like I said, I'm not an engineer, and I'm sure that maybe Yuke at the time could have had a better process to port these features from one game to the next. But the fact of the matter is that they didn't, and it ate up a lot of costs to carry that feature over year. So when we had that we had to make a decision on whether to bring it or to keep it or to jettison it. Like that was the reason why. And like I said, I know that, it's not an answer probably, those GM mode fans wanted to hear, but that was just the reality that we were in, where it just wasn't an easy thing to carry that sumbitch over year. It was just, it took time away from other areas of the game.
And I don't know if you guys call this the hardcores or not, but I understand once you guys come out and you explain stuff like that, that's something that I miss with the old regime, I'll say, the THQ. If you guys can see under me, I got all the THQ logos too, the old ones and the new one that they had towards the end and the WWE 2K logo. But when I see this, like, I respect the fact when someone comes out and tells me the truth versus everything's so secretive with 2K. Like, even with the basketball games, they don't say nothing about it until August, and the game comes out in 3 months. And it's a great way to build the hype. I absolutely love it. But I think sometimes when stuff's going to be bad, you need to start talking immediately.
Yeah. They could have done a better job of getting out front of things. But, I mean, when I first got to 2K, that was one thing that I noticed right away, where it was like, wow, we're not, like, this just radio silence. But that's, like you said, that's just how they operate. And honestly, it's fine to operate that way if at the end of the day, the game that you're releasing is one that is good. You know what I mean? It's like it is a good way to build hype. If it's a game that when it comes out, it's like, God damn it, because you're not being overexposed to so much of the game before its release. So I see their side of it, but like I said, I mean, it has to be a game that's that's good. If it's not, then it's all just like, well, this is why we didn't hear anything, because you guys are keeping this from us and this, that, and the other. So,
and yeah, it just doesn't work in favor of anybody when you do that.
Are you looking for the newest and hottest in the world of pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 6,000 hours of the best events from over 150 of your favorite promotions from 20 different countries around the globe. Brands like Progress Wrestling, Evolve Wrestling, Combat Zone, Defy, PCW Ultra, PWX, Over the Top, Shine, and hundreds of others with fresh content added every day for only $5.99 per month. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
Everything Pro Wrestling, it's your boys from the Everything College Basketball Podcast and Facebook group. I'm Josh Burton, letting you all know that if you like the college game, that there's only one spot to come find all you need to know.
Yep, Josh, Peyton, and myself, Tyler. We are the three voices of ECB podcast and Facebook group. Peyton, tell them where they can find us and listen to us at.
Well, Tyler, you can find us on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and all other podcast hosting sites. Also, go join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups like Everything College Basketball.
So if you want everything you need to know about the collegiate game or have a passion for it, there's only one spot that you need to check out on a weekly basis or a daily basis with the Facebook group. That's Everything College Basketball. Now let's get back to Conrad informing you on everything pro wrestling and the workings around it.
Brother.
But let's transition into something that was good. SmackDown versus Raw 2007. Bryan,
I played the hell out of this game, man.
I love this game too. Shout out to so this is probably around the time when I started dating my wife. Like that's how far back we go, not including the high school time and all that stuff. So we're kind of high school sweethearts too. So, but when you look at this, Brandon,
so sweet, man.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. If you're in there, so these were like good moments when she wasn't around or whatever. I would play this game with her brother, and we loved the hell out of this game. We would play this like all day. Like, yo, put in that SVR2007, son. Let's see what you got. And we would just go back and forth on this. I gotta call you. I gotta call your team out for something though, Bryan.
Go ahead.
The trailer. I know you remember this misleading ass trailer.
The fighting in the crowd trailer.
That and you remember they had like the models looking like super great. I was like, oh shit, this is what PS3 is gonna be like. And then I'm like, hold on, player. No way. Is that the same thing that they showed? Like the game looked good, but you were just like, bro, is that what they played me? Do you remember they had the CGI of, I think it was Cena and Kurt Angle battling and the head was on the table going against the monitors. I was like, oh, this looks so fire, bro.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, okay, we're talking about the same one. That was used to hype up the fighting in the crowd.
Yeah.
Because that's the one with Kurt Angle, he climbs up to the scaffolding.
Yeah.
And then does like a moonsault, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That was, I guess, in hindsight, I guess not even in hindsight, but even then, yeah, that was a bit misleading. But that's marketing, that's not us. They do their thing to get people excited. I remember mocapping that though. That's pretty much, that was me and Corey's involvement with that. At that time, Corey was still the main, well, he was the lead director for mocap, and I had just started, and we did this early on. So he basically was trying to pass it off to me. So we'd go to the mocap studio and everything, and I remember filming that day, and he just wanted me there to observe and see how everything is done, and then he passed it off to me. But yeah, I remember doing that. That was a fun shoot. And I do remember that commercial, or that trailer. It was like an E3 trailer, I think it was.
Who did you guys have mocap that?
Oh, man. It was, my boy, Mike Taylor.
Okay.
Mike Taylor, a guy that is a good friend of mine. And he is, I've mentioned him before, but Micah is the mocap MVP of the WWE series. And that's, he's a Hall of Famer. The guy's been involved and just about his motions, Mike has done more motions for the game than anybody. So he played, wasn't it Rey Mysterio in that trailer?
there might have been multiple people in it. I remember John Cena, Kurt Angle the most though, because of how great their models looked.
Gotcha. But yeah, to answer your question, Micah Taylor. It was guys from Deep South Wrestling at the time.
DS Dub.
Yeah, Bill DeMott he was down there. He was their handler at the time. Who else was on that shoot? It might have been one of the Bashams. I think it was Doug Basham. I think MVP might have been a part of it. It's just, man, it's like a blur. But yeah, it was the DSW crew for sure.
That was dope. And they were flying out to you, obviously, I would assume.
Yeah, they flew out to us. We had at the time before we were, using House of Moves. We used what was the name of that first mocap studio? Shit. It was in, if you know California, LA. It was near Marina Del Rey, and it was in this. It was an airplane hangar that was converted into a mocap space, and I just remember going there, and it was dark and just kind of dank and cold. And I was like, this is mocap? Like, this is horrible, man. Like, it was a miserable experience shooting at that first studio. It was fun to meet, to learn how to, direct and all that kind of stuff, and like getting to meet, the wrestlers that I did. But yeah, I remember even the wrestlers would kind of complain about things. It's like, man, this place is kind of not that it was a dump, it was just a depressing, dark, place to shoot.
Especially compared to the pictures I seen where you ended up shooting later.
Yeah, House of Moves, which was actually funnily enough, like kind of right down the street from the first studio that we used. So yeah, we definitely moved up a great deal when we switched and went to House of Moves.
Yeah, so this was the first game where you guys switched over everything to the analog controls too, as far as like the grappling and everything else. That was something very different. It's weird. I go back and forth on the going back to the buttons and this. I think I prefer the buttons, but the analogs were cool though too for back then, like to switch it up.
Okay, so like I said, this was the first game that really got involved heavily with the design process. The analog controls I designed that. I put that together. I mapped out how that would all work. And I will be 100% honest with you. This was basically us, and I'm grouping, Corey and all the rest of the decision makers. We were just trying to, we were all jumping on the analog hype train. Because if you remember, this was like around the time that Fight Night came out, and they had their analog controls with the punches and all that kind of stuff.
Real quick, let me just insert this. Bring back Fight Night, EA. Like, I've been championing that on Twitter, too. Can I please have Fight Night back? That's all I ask for.
I heard a rumor that it might be coming back. Didn't EA put out some kind of teaser or something about it?
They've been teasing a lot lately. I want to see it.
Yeah, I would like to see that too. But that was kind of the inspiration for us switching to the analog controls. And we also thought it just might make things easier to do. I know, especially for like the grappling, because I believe so the right stick, so you're basically moving like up, down, left, right. Did a different grapple move, and the reason was that if we make this change versus the buttons and how we had it before, anybody who's new to the series could easily be able to pick it up and just with the flick of the stick be able to throw off a move versus the combination of the left stick and the button. You know what I mean? It's like you're taking two inputs and condensing it to one was kind of the our mind state at the time, and. So yeah, and I was the one. I think that was probably the first design that I put together was how that would all, work.
Yeah, I wasn't mad at it at all. I like kind of when they go back and as long as it makes sense and there's kind of a reason for it. Like you said, during that time period, it was the analog time. A lot of games were switching over to it. It made sense to do it. And in all honesty, I'm one of the people. I'm all for getting more moves into the game. Oh, we're gonna bring you to the table too. When it's coming up for that, but I'll save that for now.
Yeah.
But putting
I'm not looking forward to that one, but yeah.
Yeah. So more putting more moves into the game would be really dope. The environmental hotspots too. I really like these. I thought these were fun. I think this is something missing from the game today, dude. When people get thrown into the steel steps, bro, like it happens. I want to feel it. Like, and then when you guys will put the person in control, like, yo, I'm about to slam your head off this like 3 times. Shut up, shut up, shut up. You ain't beating me. Get up. It just added like some great crap talking moments and just really cool things. So who thought of the environmental hotspots? Because I thought that was a kudos to them for that. Ooh.
That was mine as well. So my big things that I did in this game were the hotspots, the environmental hotspots, the ultimate control grapples, like I said, we talked about the analog controls. Those were like my 3 big ticket items, and then Corey was responsible for the fighting in the crowd part of the game. So I'm glad to hear that you liked those hotspots, man, because that was I put that together. It was probably like one of the first big designs that I had to do. And like I said, I'm learning on the fly. Like I really didn't know what I was doing. I just, Corey would give me some advice. He's like, look, it's like writing stereo instructions. Just lay out how everything should work and function. And, we'll pass it off to Yuke, and then they'll figure it out on the programming side of things. And so that's what I did. And I came up with all the different, scenarios and situations. What was it? There was, you mentioned the steel cage, the turnbuckle, and about the turnbuckle, what I really like too is that if you remove the turnbuckle pad and you did it, you could then bust, make them bleed or whatever. I thought that was a nice touch to add. The steel steps, the ropes. Wasn't there one on the rope where you kind of jiggled up and down?
Yeah, put them up and down.
Yeah, that shit was fun, man. I really enjoyed doing that. I remember at the time when we were first getting early builds of the game from Yuke's, which is always like Christmas to me. Like that was honestly one of the best parts of working on the game is when we got those weekly builds to kind of check how features are coming along. And I remember the first time we got the build with the first hotspot in it. I think it might have been the steel step. In fact, it was a steel step, and I got my hands on it, and it wasn't perfect. Like I said, we were iterating. We were it was just our first look at it. But I was so excited and so happy, like, oh man, like this is so dope. Like I designed this, and here it is, and I'm playing with it. I'm bashing homeboy's head into the steps. It was just, I marked out, man. I marked out. It was fun.
Yeah, you guys had a lot of dope stuff into this. The ultimate control stuff was great, like you said, too. Throwing someone up on your shoulders instead. Being able to just transition into moves kind of smoother, because wrestling was changing during this time period too. We were still in like the old school kind of era and big man and everything else, but at the same time, people were starting to love people like Paul London, and they wanted to see those moves and can you transition into it? A lot of wrestling fans who play these games, they're fans of indie workers. They want to, hey man, can you put someone on the shoulders and do the I'm trying to think of an indie wrestler from back then. Can you do like Super Dragon's finisher? Can you do something different with this stuff? And I'm like, yeah, dude, that's exactly what people wanted to do. So when I saw those little things, I'm like, yo, they've got stuff in their mind that they're forward thinking about a lot of this stuff. I was really happy with how this looked. The fighting in the crowd was dope too. This was something we had missed since I think it was Just Bring It. I think. That was when they used to have like the little, they looked like the cutouts of people, and they would just like scatter back.
Those standees.
Yeah,
that's right.
That was really really good. And what was
the fight in the crowd? They definitely I don't know if it's still. I'm sure it's probably still in 2K20. I don't know why they would take that out.
No,
but that was the feature and that's another thing with this game is that like the fighting in the crowd, the ultimate control grapples. I remember at the time a lot of people were kind of disappointed about how small the space was for that, fighting in the crowd, because you're not really fighting in the crowd. It was just like this little section with crowd members around it. But I think that was just we were kind of limited with our tech at that time, and then also just time wasn't really on our side with that. So I give 2K a lot of props because like they when they reintroduced it a couple years ago, it was really dope. It was really dope.
Yeah. Yeah, now you can fight like on all sides of the arena and everything else, go wherever, and then transition your way all the way back to the ramp. But even back then, though, dude, like you guys had the speakers, so you're like, oh, that's where the music comes from. People would climb up, the trash can would have like the dust in it and stuff when they would dump it. You guys had some dope stuff in there. Don't sell yourselves short on that. Now, this was the first game with 3D facial scans, I believe, too?
Yes, it was. It was.
Okay. And I know that you guys tried to enhance online, kind of. I won't get too deep into that. I'm sure not the, the progress that, a lot of fans wanted to see. Very small incremental steps for online, unfortunately. Yeah, but this game had a great roster. It was fun. You guys introduced a lot of dope things. Now, you said this was the introduction of mocap, correct?
Yeah.
So this is what I got for you then on this standpoint. How do you feel about the movement over to mocap from how things looked in the past?
So here's the thing when it comes to mocap. Anything motion capture is only as good as the motion that's captured. So what I mean, I know that sounds just very matter of fact, but motion capture it's all dependent on the person that's there, making sure that the motion that they are, that they're getting, that they're keeping, is quality. You cannot half-ass mocap, because once that animation is imported into the game, if it's something that that you don't like, or it's like, oh, this doesn't look that great, there's only so much that the animators can do to correct it. And I really dealt with this a lot when I left 2K and went to Yuke's. And while at Yuke's, and I was no longer, directing mocap, we see some of these new moves coming into the game. And, we would, because I was involved with those move animations on my side. Like I set the reversal windows, and I added all the new moves into the game. I named them. I did that was like one of the things that I was responsible for. And so I worked with the animators a lot. And they would regularly get requests from, the 2K side saying, oh, can you please adjust this and, fix this animation to do this, that, and the other. And, it was just a little frustrating, because it's like, well, if you weren't happy with it, why'd you keep it? You're at a mocap studio. Have them do it again. It was kind of frustrating. It was because I would look at it and I was like, wow, like this was a motion that they kept. Because again, this was something that I learned when I started doing motion capture, where, yeah, it can kind of be intimidating when you're out there, having to direct these wrestlers. I kind of dealt with it a little bit, but you have to get past yourself and be like, look, this is important shit. These guys are here to do a job. And I never once had an issue with anybody that I work with, the wrestlers, asking them for a different take. I would explain, why we had to do a new take, and they were like, hey, whatever you guys want, that's what we're here for. This is almost like a vacation for us. So yeah, if you want to do it again, let's go. It's like they're there to work, and we're there to capture the best motion that we can for the game, for the fans, and all that. So if you do that and you get those right motions, motion capture definitely saves a lot of time. It's a huge time saver, as opposed to keyframe animation. That is for sure. I mean, it's an expensive thing. Motion capture is not cheap, but it's more than worth it for what it saves on the back end, just in terms of the time it takes to get the motion captured. You can quickly import it into the game, and you can make adjustments and you're off and running, versus the other way to do it.
Yeah, that is a great way to look at this when it comes down to everything as far as SVR07, the motion capture. To me, when I think about it, I always think of just the bad ones that look bad, that make me hate it, but there are like great animations too that you're like, dude, that was spot on. Whoever did that was perfect. Like sometimes I can't even tell if the person did it for so long. But I will tell you, in instances with someone like MVP, remember the ball and elbow?
Yeah.
Holy mackerel, dude. I couldn't even think of a good enough curse word to use right there.
You're talking about the original ball and elbow.
Oh, the very first one was so bad, dude. I was like, yo, who skipped like they were on the little sidewalk like a little kid? Like, balling. It just looked bad. I'm like, dude, they gotta call MVP up and be like, yo, bro, I need you just to do this one movie. You could go. Like, that's it.
That's actually what happened. I remember that motion. I remember so the crew of guys that we had. And it's funny, too, because it wasn't this game where we had the ball and elbow, was it?
No, I think that came up in the next one.
Because I was going to say, because MVP, he did a lot of, well, not a lot, but he definitely was involved in mocap for the development of this game, of 2007, which is funny because when it came time, once he got called up and he, started doing his thing and we had to go back into the mocap studio for the next year's game to capture his entrance, his moves, and all that, as good as our guys were, none of them had any rhythm. None of them could do anything closely to how MVP did. His walk, I remember his entrance being really shitty at the time. That ball and elbow, for sure, was terrible. And that was one of those things where it's like, okay, look, we can either spend an entire day trying to work and get this damn move semi-correct, or sometimes you just got to cut your losses and be like, all right, we've got a large, our shot list. We have 400 moves we got to get. Unfortunately, we can't spend 3-4 hours trying to nail this one move. So that decision had to be made. But I will say, when MVP, when he got onto SmackDown, I remember going to Corey and asking him, hey, or maybe it was Frank. Frank was one of our production managers. I was like, Frank, is there any way that you can maybe reach out to WWE to see if they will loan us MVP so we can have him come in and do his motions? Because our guys, they just can't get this down, and the motions we have in the game are just not good at all. And he was like, oh yeah, sure. Frank was off. Frank Bowen was the shit. So he just put in a call, and the WWE, they sent him to us, and he was, he had done it before, so he knew us, and he was like, yeah, because he saw the motions and he hated them. He was like, who did this? Who captured this?
Yeah, you don't mess with MVP either. I'm glad that he's back on TV too. Just a little sidebar. MVP was always great.
He's a good dude. Yeah.
And I think back then when he was recording with you, I don't know if he was Antonio Banks in Deep South Wrestling. That's when I first remember him from Ring of Honor, being Antonio Banks. So he was cool. He wasn't doing the MVP character at the time. So think of how little time you guys had to get that in, get the ball and elbow right. You know what I mean? That's tough too. So I wasn't mad.
Yeah. But still, I appreciate that. But that was
Crime Time had it just as bad too, man, with JTG and Shad. Shout out to Shad Gaspar too. I definitely just saw him in Birds of Prey. Nice cameo at the end there. So make sure
he's in that?
Yeah, he's in it. Did you see it already?
I haven't seen the movie yet. No.
Oh yeah, I just saw it via means I will not talk about on here. But yeah, it was a really good movie, and I did at the end. I just happened to look, and I'm like, "Yo, is that Shad Gaspar?" And I was like, "Yo, that is." I was like, "Nice."
Oh, nice.
So he gets a little feature in it.
Hey, before we move on, just one last thing about any rhythmic motions. So MVP was the first, but like you mentioned, anytime we had any wrestler on television that did anything close to having dancing, anything rhythmic, we always after that MVP fiasco, we always went straight to WWE. So we go when R-Truth was doing his thing, rapping out to the crowd, they sent us R-Truth so he could capture his stuff. Crime Time, I directed both of them and captured all their stuff. Fandango, because again, or actually no, we didn't get Fandango. I take that back. We did hire a female dancer to work with Mike Taylor, who I was talking about earlier. He played Fandango, but she helped him get the steps down and everything like that. So,
but Fandango's dancing was goofy, so you could probably pull that one off a little bit easier. Was it the original girl who was Fandango's girl?
Yeah, it was right when he debuted. So we didn't have her. We just hired. It
wasn't the brunette.
No, we hired our own dancer for that intro. Yeah, we did that on our own.
You know why I asked that? She went to UB at the time. She was a University of Buffalo student, I guess, the original brunette for it. And then she got replaced by Summer Rae, I guess. But I thought she was amazing when she came out and did the dancing with him and everything else.
Yeah. That's dope. I didn't know that.
Yeah. See? Small things. World connects, baby. Let's see here. Original Biggie put into the chat for us. Will Will physics or should they? I think he's saying physics should and will play a factor as well. He said, "I can't wait to see when you guys talk about SVR11." Yes, we'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I can't wait for that either. I had the most fun working on that game. I have a lot of fun memories about SVR11.
Let's see here. Original Biggie said it is in 2K20 to some extent. It was brought back in 2K17. I can't remember what we were talking about. We were probably asking about different backstage.
Fighting in the crowd, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Foul's got a good question for you here. He
Yes,
said,
sir.
did you ever take inspiration from mods that are out there? I used to use the Game Shark codes for SmackDown 2 to make extra ladders and a buried alive match in the game. So did you ever look at the mods and say, hey, how can we get that type of stuff into our games?
No. I don't do mods or anything like that. Yeah, no. I don't think I've ever played them. Like, honestly, and I'm gonna sound like a dumbass. I don't even really know what that shit is.
Have you seen like the WCW Feel the Bang?
No.
When you're done, I'm gonna send you on a little bit of a rabbit hole after this.
That's a game?
So look, people made the No Mercy engine, right? And you know everybody loves it. People have been modding that for years now for the computers, and they made one called WCW Feel the Bang. So usually when you see the mod, you're like, all right, this is gonna look pretty shitty, right? Like the moves are gonna be all jacked up. Yo, these boys found every single move that was in the Japanese games to all of them and figured out how to put them in so it looks right. They also updated the models where they look a little bit cleaner. They have like, how do I want to put this? Hulk Hogan, but you could be Hollywood Hogan. You could be Hogan when he was wearing like the red and white. Hogan with the yellow on. They put in so many different like versions of him. Sting, Surfer Sting. You'd be shocked who's in this. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Foul did a whole video on it, but there's even a video called like WCW Feel the Bang. I think it's like 50 or 100 moves to Eric Bischoff, and you could go through and play it, and they have stuff locked, bro, to where it's like, oh, unlock Dusty Rhodes by playing. I know this is probably wrong, but like beat like this Starcade mode that we have set up. Go through the 12 different people. It's really kind of dope. Like I was like, yo, they spent a lot of time on this. Like it looks just like No Mercy, but they have like the entire setup like really nice looking for it.
Okay, all right, because I do, yeah, mods are basically people, they get access to the code and they kind of start digging around with it, right, to kind of make changes and all that kind of stuff.
Foul just put in the chat, well, he put laughing my ass off first. Said your response, no. He said, big shout out to AKI Evolution. They created the project, so they've been working on.
I follow them on Twitter, so I do like when they post stuff. I haven't seen the WCW stuff. I just see stuff they do for No Mercy, but I haven't seen anything about the WCW stuff. But I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, I've seen one for like ECW. I don't know if they were part of that too. There's a bunch of them though out there that I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, if you're ever bored, just take a look at it, man. Maybe you'll get some ideas from it or whatnot. But just very, very different.
I got nothing but time right now, so that'll be easy to do.
Yeah, check it out, man. Bryan, I think this might be a good spot for us to officially end it right here. If you guys enjoyed this series, number one, hit the subscribe button. It's well worth it. I greatly appreciate everybody who took the time out to check this out. Bryan is always a busy man. Thank goodness that he had some time for me today. I know he's got a bunch of different things that he has been working on, and I know that he's still busy, even though he says he's not. I know that his time is very important to him, so I have to thank him. And we're getting questions in right now. Oh my Lord! Hold on, Bryan. I was gonna kick it to you to end it, but
yeah, let's answer. Let's answer.
Foul wanted you to know that it's a pretty deep rabbit hole too if you go down it for the Feel the Bang. There's a lot of people who are covering that right now.
Okay.
Let's see here. AR wants to know, what would be your dream wrestling game? For me, it would be the graphics of 2K15 Next Gen mixed with the gameplay of Here Comes the Pain and the weapon physics of SmackDown vs. Raw 11 with a smiley face.
Well, that's a good one, bro. I'm feeling that. I don't, I don't want to steal your answer, but that's a damn good one. Honestly, when I think about it's kind of hard to answer because my mind actually went someplace else when you asked that. Because I was just gonna say a certain, wrestling game that I like to make. But if I had to choose the styles and everything, I definitely would like something that's more. So for me, I want something that's akin and similar to Here Comes the Pain, but with brand new concepts and ideas on top of that. You know what I mean? I like the pace, the quick pace of Here Comes the Pain. The moves in that game had impact, which I think really, for me, makes that game probably one of my favorites. Every move in that game, it was bone rattling, man. The F5, the rock bottom, everything you did in that game felt like it had weight, and that game was fucking hurting. And I think, as we've kind of gone through, in the series, that aspect has kind of been lost, in my opinion. A lot of that has to do with mocap, but that's neither here nor there. But I love the impactfulness of Here Comes the Pain, the speed, the responsiveness. So I like to keep that and marry that and pair that with brand new concepts and ideas that folks haven't seen in a wrestling game yet, which is what I'm currently working on. So I had some good progress yesterday. I think I sent out a tweet. I said I was sipping on some whiskey while trying to finish this design. Because I want to put it in front of my people in Japan, so we can discuss it. But yeah, I've got some really original kind of inventive ideas that I like to bring to the table when it comes to wrestling and wrestling video games. So that's that.
I love to hear that. And you mentioning those moves, it reminded me a lot of what was brought up by. I didn't hear this for myself, so I can't really quote it to say that it's 100% fact. But I heard several YouTubers that I respect say it. It was Kenny Omega just talking about the impact of moves, even in the No Mercy game and stuff, how you just felt those moves versus how they are today. You kind of missed the slowdown effect a little bit, and it was just damn right, I just caught that. It used to just feel good that you were yep, got the special. Here we go, around, flick the stick, he's up, he's over, slam down, perfect. You would feel it. Or even you said in the old SmackDown games, the slowdown. Remember when you could pan the camera around too?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, dude, that was the worst though. When you're getting the finisher done to you, you would be pissed. All right, bro, just do it. If you're gonna hold on, oh, look at it again, pedigree, and you're just damn it. But that stuff's fun, man. Even stealing your opponent's finisher used to be a great thing when the red SmackDown logo would pop up, and you're shit, the worst. And there's nothing worse than losing to your own finisher in the game. You're trash, bro. You're trash.
I did that to so many of my friends. So I love that aspect of the game. Like you said, you said earlier, the competitive nature. I love playing, when I'm sitting next to somebody. But yeah, the online stuff, no bueno. But yeah, you're right about those moves and everything, and the shit talking. And I love stealing finishers back in the day. I mean, and just using it to get the win. That's it's the best insult. You know what I mean? It's I'm about to win anyway. I know that because I'm one of the best players of the series. But yeah, to beat them with their own move is just the icing on the cake.
So let's see here. Obi-Wan said thank you for joining us, sir. So he is appreciative of that, and he also He just chimed in with for SVR11. I think he's saying that it's a mixture of that and the ring rope physics that brings that excitement into a match. So yeah, that's not a bad point either, Obi-Wan. Rob's got a buy or sell kind of for you, as I like to call him. He said Def Jam Vendetta versus Fight for New York.
Oh man, I'm buying on Fight for New York.
My man, that's what I like to hear.
I mean, right? I mean, Vendetta was great, but I mean, Fight for New York, man, that was
Fight for New York's where it's at, bro. I stand with that. Rob said that Matrix effect when you hit a finisher was a huge demoralizer. I'm telling you, bro, that shit used to hurt my soul when someone would do that to me. Look, bro, this looks so real, doesn't it? Yo, just win the match if you're about to win, dude.
Just get it over with. Just get it over with. Let's
exactly. Tommy just joined us. Me and the missus play SmackDown 2 on PS2 so much. Easily the best game. These games need a remake badly.
Yeah, unfortunately, I hear a lot of people asking for remakes of games. It's impossible to do just because of all the licensing issues and trying to get these talents. And it's the talents, it's the assets. It's just an impossibility. That's the one thing about it's these sports games. And I don't think it's just us either. I think it's any sports game because you have assets of a certain time, but then it's not like you can just keep and retain that and then just kind of spit it out again. It's a big process, and it's probably it'll probably cost you more just to get everything back together than you would get in the money back from selling it. So it's just a big impossibility. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yes. So here's what it's going to be, guys, coming up. Tomorrow, I will be doing a live AEW Dynamite review. Whatever they put on, I'm reviewing it.
Hey, how good was last week's show, man? Sorry to cut you off.
No.
That was a good episode.
Do you know how mad I was about last week's show? I was supposed to go to that show in Rochester. I knew he was going to debut. I did the math in my head. I'm like, bro, if it lines up right and he shows up, Rochester could be a banger show. And then as soon as it was time, they were like, it was like the day after, or it was Thursday or Friday. They're like, it's canceled. And I was just
oh man, my
soul. And then I watched that show and I was like, the first line in my review was, we were supposed to be there.
Oh, brother, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And Tiffany, she's another podcaster. She was supposed to be at the New Jersey show, so I feel bad for her, too. She was going to get a great show, too, with the Blood and Guts match. Yeah. Everything seems out of whack right now with all the companies. So they've got my, listen, a lot of people probably expect me to trash WWE for the stuff they've been putting on. I have no complaints, minus them just bringing up old matches like they did with Asuka versus Charlotte last night. I was like, turn it off for a minute. I'll come back. I know when it comes. It's like an hour. I'm like, we're done with that. Turn that off. That made me angry when they did that. Just stuff like that. But I feel for WWE. I feel for the performers. I hope everyone's getting paid. I don't know what the status is with that. I hope contracts aren't getting frozen. I really want to see these guys just happy, and I want to see the world move on from this. It's so crappy for people to have to go through this.
Yeah, I mean, as much as it sucks that we can't, how wrestling's affected and all this. I mean, we can't lose sight of the fact that their health and the safety of this planet is obviously more important than making sure that we get our wrestling fix. So, like you said, my thoughts and prayers and hearts out to everybody going through what we're all going through with this coronavirus bullshit. So, let's hope we can kick its ass pretty soon here.
For sure, I'm with you on that. And I want to thank everybody who joined us in the live chat tonight, man. You guys were awesome. And like I said, Brian's going to be back on. We're going to go through SVR 09, 10, 11, 12, 13. 2K14, and then we'll probably, I don't know if we'll lump all the 2Ks together or whatnot, but we'll talk all the 2K games too in his time at Yuke's. Like I said, so if you guys got questions specifically about those games, bring them in. Bring the hard ones too.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that's because I was the one that reached out to Conrad to even do this, just because I have time on my hands right now. I'm stuck at home, but yeah, I mean, I want to just anybody who's got questions about certain things that they, have long been wondering about and have never gotten any kind of either an answer at all or a good answer. I want this to just be an open forum. I mean, I'm not here to I just want to be honest about my time on the series, and any and all questions are welcome. Good, bad, I don't care. There isn't anything that I won't give an answer to.
That's what I like to hear, because next time I'm bringing the heat when we talk about SmackDown versus Raw 08. I've got a lot to say about that because it changed how I feel about the series. And, I can't wait for us to talk about it next time. So we'll do the AEW Dynamite review next week. I have planned 2 roundtables. I don't know if it's going to be an NXT one and a WrestleMania one, or if there'll be WrestleMania Day 1, Day 2. I got to talk with the fellow roundtable guests, but you guys aren't going to want to miss who I'm going to have on for that. We'll have 2 great discussions. So you're going to get a lot of podcasts from me coming up. We'll see if we're going to get the big Mania show after Raw. I don't know if I'm going to do a review of that. If not, you can expect me and Brian to be back that week after that, and we will be discussing more of these games, man. And I can't wait to do it. This has been fun, Brian.
Yeah, this has, man. Thank you so much for putting some time aside for me to do this, for us to do this.
Absolutely, man. I'll keep this design layout for us so that way we can rock with it. But
All right.
thank you guys so much for joining us. We will be back with another episode in the future, and make sure you join us tomorrow for AEW Dynamite. Peace.
Peace.